Hey guys, welcome back to Love Lighthouse Podcast. Okay, this week I want to talk to you about something that has been coming up with my clients lately, and it's because it's the holidays. And so I knew that this would be very valuable to all of you as well. And that is when you're dealing with friends, family, exes over the holiday, people coming into your space that can be overwhelming, intense, annoying, painful, hard, right? All of these different personalities. There's a lot of energy around the holidays because you have tons of people that are in your space and it's all at once. Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple examples of different conversations I've had lately and then how to deal with them. But ultimately, through this conversation, I am going to go over how you can enjoy your life, not only during the holidays, yes, of course, during Christmas, Thanksgiving, all of those things, but apply this to all the time throughout the entire year, how you can keep your power regardless of your interactions with other people and regardless of what's happening with them in their life and how they show up. Okay. So, first conversation that I had was with one of my clients. Her mom came into town. She hasn't seen her for, several months, and her and her mom, they kind of butt heads. I'm sure some of you can relate to this, they don't necessarily mesh very well. And she is a busy businesswoman, my client, and her mom is retired, can't relate to how her daughter's schedule, my client's schedule is. And she showed up to town and wanted, her grown daughter, to just drop everything and be at her beck and call, to be available for her. And my client was like, hey, listen, I can see you, in a couple days. My next couple days is totally packed full and I have a lot going on. And her mom was upset. And so she was upset with her mom because her mom got upset with her. Okay. So we kind of unpacked it a little bit, and I said, okay, look, once I unpacked it and I looked at everything, I was like, basically, there's no problem with you with what's happening here. If you were being super rude or irrational, I would tell you as your coach that you were being irrational, but it sounds like your mom just can't relate to where you're at because her life is very different right now. And her mom was really playing the victim role, which unfortunately we do with our kids more than you realize it. Sometimes my kids call me out on it when I'm trying to put a guilt trip on them. Parents do this a lot with their kids. We try to put guilt trips on our children, and it's up to the child whether they allow the guilt trip to happen or not. Okay. So anyways, her mom was kind of playing victim mode and not relating to what her daughter had on her plate, and which made her not really want to see her even more. Okay. So I said, I don't see a problem with any of this other than one thing. And here's the problem. Other than you're allowing it to bother you so bad. Other than you're allowing it to come in and take over your emotions and distract you. I told my client this. And so I told her, many times our parents or people that are older than us, we think that they should be older and wiser just because they're older. And that is not necessarily the case. Many times, if not most of the time, it's actually opposite. They're not at a level of awareness or consciousness that maybe you are. And so it is what it is. To step back and stop trying to control the situation or trying to get that person to see it through your eyes. One of the frustrations with my client and her mom was she wanted her mom to understand. Her mom's in her 60s and she's like, oh, it's just so annoying. Why doesn't she understand? And it's like, she doesn't understand because she's just not, that's not where she's at with her own growth and her own consciousness and her own awareness. And so I gave her the example of, think of like a 2-year-old and you're mad at a 2-year-old because they can't drive a car. Is that kind of silly? Yes, of course, that's kind of silly. Now, is it the same thing? No, but kind of it is in a way, right? Because she got it as soon as I said that. She was like, oh, yeah, I get that. Because she understood that her mom just she doesn't have a lot of self-awareness and she's just on her own journey. Okay. And there's no judgment. If a 2-year-old doesn't know how to drive, you're not going to get mad at them for that. You realize it's just not time for them yet. They have a journey to go through. They need to grow some more. They need to physically, mentally, and emotionally grow in order to be able to drive. And so it is what it is. We need to stop getting so upset over those people in our life not being at the same place we are at in their personal growth and on their journey here on planet Earth. And it doesn't matter who it is. It could be your spouse, your sister, your child, your parent, your grandparent. They might just not get it. They might just not be at the same place you're at. And that's okay. I look back on times in my life and I just didn't understand certain things. And then once I got to that point where that piece of information dropped in and clicked, okay, then I got it. Then I understood. But there's still a lot of things I don't understand and vice versa. So when we can step back out of the emotion, step out of the emotion and really just into a space of observing where people are at, then we don't have to let it dictate our emotions in our life. And it won't have the power to take over our emotions. We call this in our house keeping your power or giving your power away. But we do this so much in life when we allow others. I want you to think of just like this cup right here that sits right here in your heart, your emotions, right? And somebody comes in and says something to you that doesn't sit well with you, and you just bottle up that power that you have and you just give it to them like immediately. You're like, here it is, take my power. And we do it all the time to people that really shouldn't have that ability or that power over us to take it from us. So that's one example. And when I explained that to her, that's all it took, because she was like, she's a smart woman, really smart, assertive, wise businesswoman. And she was like, oh, yeah, I get that. I'm like, there's no problem here other than it's bothering you. And that's the only problem. So quit letting it bother you. Right. So that's one thing. When you realize that you're doing that, that's the most important thing for you to realize is if somebody is bothering you in your family, in your friends, in your circle, then just step back and go, why am I giving my power away? And is it really necessary? Do I really want to do this? Do I really want to give them my emotions and let them annoy me so bad or put me in a bad mood because they're just not at that place in their life yet? Because they're a 2-year-old trying to drive a car and they just don't know how to do it yet. That's really when we look at consciousness, how it is. There is an idea, it's called spiral dynamics, and it's an idea of the levels of consciousness in humans, like the human consciousness, right? And the different levels. And it is so eye-opening to realize that, when you start to look at that idea of this life experience and how we judge in such a way of physical age, and it really has nothing to do with it. You can find sometimes a 90-year-old who is very, very unconscious, and they're very spiritually young, as opposed to the flip side of that. You can find somebody who's really young, maybe 7 years old, and they are spiritually advanced. Age doesn't matter when it comes to the evolution of our consciousness. So that's the first thing, is just being aware as you go through the holidays, as you're with people that might be hard to be around, then just realize they might just not be at that place, and that's okay, because this is their journey. Okay. When dealing with exes, I also had a conversation recently with one of my clients who, she was telling me that, at all the holiday parties, at all the family get-togethers, she sees her ex-husband and his girlfriend and how they are all over each other, and how that's hard. And I hear this a lot, actually. It's a very common thing. And I say with that, yes, there are times where you're going to have to be around your ex if you are mature and you aren't putting it on your children, and you can say, hey, look, I'm going to show up, and I'm not going to say, hey, you have to have 2 birthday parties or 2 graduations. I can show up, I can set my emotions aside, and I can, be there for the kids. Then that's great if you're at that place. If you're not, then or if your ex isn't, then I encourage you guys to try to do some work and get to that point where you can at least be in the same room. But there's also putting yourself on the list and taking care of yourself and nourishing yourself. So if you're expected to be at, Sunday dinners and hanging out, staring at your ex-wife or ex-husband, then maybe you need to set some parameters. If it's not like a graduation or a special event, and there's really no need for you to have to spend all the holidays and all the dinners with your ex. And if it's painful for you, then maybe you want to set some healthy boundaries for yourself and say, hey, kids, let's do dessert at my house, or something else. Get creative and figure that out. But when we look at, it's not about doing those extremes, being on the extreme side. So the one extreme would be where you don't go to anything and you're angry and bitter and can't be in the same space as your ex. The other side would be where you are at everything and it's painful for you, but you do it anyways. And you're staring at your ex and his new girlfriend or her new boyfriend or whatever, right? It's really thinking of yourself as well, but also showing up for your kids and love in your heart. But just think about, as you go through the holidays, of not only taking care of yourself, but also realize that many times you're giving away your power to people that it's kind of silly. If you have an older bossy sister that just annoys you, ask yourself, why are you allowing it? Because that's where she's at, and maybe she's a control freak. Why are you allowing it to take over your emotions and affect your holiday with your children? That's silly, right? So that's my simple message for you today, to step back, observe what's going on there, and are you really going to bottle up all your power and give that over to someone else? Is it worth it? So most likely you're going to find that it's not. I invite you to check out my Awaken group. We meet every single week. We grow, learn, and progress as a tribe together. It's such a beautiful space for us to meet together. So click the link and come join me if you are wanting to really, really raise your vibe in 2023. It's going to be an awesome year together, but now's the time to put yourself on the list and get yourself a priceless gift. You can also buy it for someone else. It's a great gift for someone that you love. It works out to be about $30 some a month with the yearly membership. So click the link, check it out, come join me, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.